I'm Councilmember Dan STRAUSS, representing you in District 6. In my first 6 months in office, we faced a global pandemic, a recession, a civil rights reckoning, and civil unrest. One of those things alone would knock a normal person down, and together, we were resilient. I never quit working for you. I work from my district office at the Ballard Library so that you don't have to go out of your way to have your voice heard by City Hall. My office focuses on 3 top priorities: addressing public safety, addressing homelessness, and creating housing that is affordable for working families. Because the family I grew up in should be able to afford to live in the Seattle of today and tomorrow. I operate public safety task forces implementing real-time solutions by connecting small businesses, residents, and the people who can meet their needs. I support fully funding the police and critical alternatives. Today we have community service officers patrolling our streets, park rangers in our parks, Health One responding to emergencies, and it was my amendment that brought the council's budget into 99% alignment with Mayor Harrell's SPD investments and fully funded the officer recruitment plan. I've resolved encampments in parks without sweeps, and now I'm partnering with Mayor Harrell to scale up our homelessness response by expanding to have neighborhood-based homelessness response teams. Things are better, but better isn't good enough. I want to raise my kids in a neighborhood that is safer than the one that I grew up in. Growing up in District 6, I see the horizon. It has a brighter future than what we have today, as long as we don't let up. I've dedicated my life to public service. I've navigated hard times and delivered for our district and city by bringing people together to find common ground. I'm Councilmember Dan STRAUSS. I ask for your vote to keep the momentum and to continue working for you.
Homelessness is now officially a long-term problem. At least 5 years to address, according to the Regional Homelessness Authority. Translation? Encampments for 5 more years at least. Compassion is important, but we need to identify who needs what kind of help by implementing 3 levels of designated urban campgrounds: sober, intermediate, cannabis and alcohol okay, and permissive, hard drugs okay within the fenced area. Public safety is job 1. We clearly need to add more commissioned officers and unarmed community service officers. Enforce newly enacted laws against open hard drug use on our streets. Social justice demands investing in best practices to ensure civilian safety. Public infrastructure. Our bridges, water, and sewer mains are aging. The state legislature has now mandated sixplexes, which could triple or quadruple our population. And we'll have to foot the bill for the new infrastructure. When you voted in 2019, were you voting to defund the police? Probably not. New issues will emerge over the next 4 years. I'll take a socially liberal and fiscally conservative approach toward them. Leave people alone unless we need laws to keep their conduct from interfering with others. Spend tax dollars amply but wisely. Ability to pay matters. Don't overburden any one segment of the tax base. I'm SHEA Wilson, your candidate for change in District 6, and I ask for your vote to govern responsibly. For more, go to votesheawilson.com.
With Mayor Harrell's leadership, we've made some progress in making our neighborhood safer, but we have much work still need to be done. I'm running for City Council in District 6 because we must elect a pragmatic City Council committed to fulfilling its promise and obligations by focusing on the basics rather than engaging in divisive and performative politics that we see currently playing out. I have 35 years in business experience and was the owner of the Red Door in Fremont for 20 years. Currently, I hold the position of Executive Director for the Fremont Chamber of Commerce and am President of the North Precinct Advisory Council. I feel the city's top priorities are ensuring community safety, addressing our housing and homelessness crisis, and returning to responsible financial management. Supporting and collaborating with law enforcement, drug treatment, and mental health professionals is absolutely essential for ensuring community safety. Our goal should be to consistently provide swift and dependable response in order to foster a thriving One Seattle. We must prioritize the construction of affordable housing to assist our working families and our seniors. This goal can be achieved by expanding the current housing supply, streamlining the permitting process, and at the same time preserving our neighborhood's character. In order to effectively address homelessness, it's imperative that the city take bold action to expand the number of shelters and tiny home villages, while also bolstering mental health and drug treatment services. We need to be able to use all the tools available to move people towards treatment. Seattle has been my beloved home for over a half century, and we're in a pivotal time as a city. I'm running because I believe we need a more pragmatic, problem-solving approach to shape our shared future. I'd be honored to earn your vote.
I intend to be a positive influence in District 6 and the entire city of Seattle. In the summer of 2020, our city council buckled to pressure to defund the police. At the same time, I was leading a campaign on the streets and freeway overpasses of Seattle with signs of truth about the COVID pandemic response. I stood up to bullies like Antifa and others that sought to suppress free speech or any effort to have a public dialogue on the topic. I stood to defend our freedom of speech, an element crucial to both science and democracy. Early in the pandemic, qualified epidemiologists like Knut Witkowski showed that COVID-19 cases had tapered off before the lockdowns began, showing that herd immunity was already achieved. He and many other experts were ignored. The lockdowns, masks, and vaccine mandates damaged people physically, mentally, and financially. These measures didn't make sense then, but continued nevertheless. How much taxpayer money was used to fight the virus? My campaign continued as I organized the community and led over 30 marches in the Seattle area and this year in Olympia. It was largely due to my tireless efforts that the COVID mandates in Washington state finally ended. We all want to see an end to homelessness, but let's not chase another expensive solution. The proposal on the table with King County Regional Homelessness Authority would cost taxpayers $11.8 billion. That's $882,705 per homeless individual in King County. Let's shift our focus to supporting our business owners, homeowners, and wage earners, those stuck with high mortgages and rent. Our city needs to work for the taxpayers, not burden them. We can find community-based solutions to end homelessness. Let me bring my courage to our city council to face up to these pressures that want us to buckle. Vote for me, Victoria.
Hi, my name is Dale KUTZERA, and I'm running for Seattle City Council District 6. Like a lot of you, I feel Seattle has been heading in the wrong direction for quite a few years now. We're heading down a path to a higher cost, lower quality of life. We used to be known for our planes, software, and coffee. Now we're known for homelessness, crime, and expensive housing. It's not too late to take a different path. We need to take people living on the streets with mental illness or addiction problems into protective custody and put them in treatment facilities. We shouldn't criminalize homelessness, but treat it like the public health crisis it is. Instead of relying on hundreds of outside vendors, we need a new social services department to help people in crisis. We've also taken the wrong approach to housing, believing that increasing supply will lower prices. But despite all the new housing we've built, rents and prices still go up. That's because private developers will only build market rate housing as long as market rates remain high. We need to prioritize affordable housing for people who earn at or below the median income. The new social housing office is a hopeful step in this direction. Addressing homelessness and housing affordability will go a long way to charting a new path for Seattle. People in crisis will get the help they need. The police can stay in their lane. The fire department won't have to deal with camp and RV fires. Our libraries can be learning centers instead of de facto homeless shelters. Our jails will no longer function as mental institutions, and our parks will be free of tents and needles. I hope you'll pay attention to these issues through this election season. You can learn more about where I stand on them at dale4district6.com. Thanks for your time.
Hi, I'm John LISBIN, and I'm running for City Council because I'm passionate about Seattle. I moved here over 25 years ago when Seattle was rated the most livable city in the country. Ask yourself if you can say that now. I have a vision of Seattle once again leading the country in livability. This is an historic time in Seattle, particularly because growth management has been an unmitigated failure. Traffic is a mess, housing is unaffordable, bridges are crumbling, residents fear for their safety, and our neighbors are literally sleeping in the streets. The recent update to Seattle's tree ordinance is an example of the failure of our city's leadership. Multiple amendments recommended by the Urban Forestry Commission were summarily rejected. Combined with the state's Middle Housing Act, which requires multifamily zoning throughout Seattle, who stands for trees? Are we the Emerald City or beholden to special interests? Subsidized multifamily housing close to transit is part of the balance that Seattle needs. We can have trees, and we can have affordable housing too. Before I built a small business from scratch into one of the fastest growing companies in Washington, I was a starving radio announcer, barely able to pay rent, while working 3 or 4 part-time jobs at a time just to get by. I know what it is to live paycheck to paycheck. We must require developers to build affordable housing on site, not pay a fee to build it somewhere else on cheaper land 4 years later. As president of Seattle Fair Growth, I've been advocating for housing for people of all incomes. And as your future city council member, I will not be taking contributions from the master builders of King County. I'll be working for one constituency, you. Together, we can make Seattle livable again.